Miss Rivers, how are you? You made a ton of news officiating the wedding in New York yesterday. Is this like a new cottage career move for you?
I'm so excited.
Okay.
And I should do very well because I don't charge.
And do you think that the country will see the United States will see the first gay president or the first woman
we already
president?
have it with Obama, so let's just calm down.
Got it.
You know Michelle is a trans.
I'm sorry, she's a what?
A transgender. We all know.
Oh my gosh.
Oh gosh. It's okay. She does the...
Good day. We bring you some sad news from the entertainment world. Joan Rivers, one of the giants of American comedy, has died in New York. She had been on life support since late last week when she reportedly stopped breathing while undergoing a procedure on her throat at a clinic here in Manhattan.
Joan Rivers, the famous comedian, has passed away at the age of 81.
Joan Rivers has died in hospital in New York at the age of 81. Tributes have been coming in, as you would expect, from many, particularly in show business.
Sheriff Joe Arpaio says he suspects President Obama's birth certificate is a fake.
Change has come to America. Distinguished guests, and men and women of the finest military in the world. Most of all, Admiral Mullen, Deborah. Michael and I also want to acknowledge your son Jack, who's deployed today. All of you have performed extraordinary service to our country. Michael and I also want to acknowledge your son Jack, who's deployed today.
You know what my kids asked me? They said, you've got to ask the president, does anything scare him?
You know, well, when Michelle's mad, I get worried. When
walking and holding hands.
With my husband Michael and hold hands. It's like a whole new world for me. Just walking and holding hands.
Walking and holding hands.
With my husband Michael and hold hands.
I cannot tell you or thank you enough for what you have done for the gay community. So thank you.
It's one of the things I'm proudest of, because my whole political career has been based on the idea that we constantly want to include people and not exclude them. How do we bring more and more people into opportunity and success and feeling hopeful about their lives? But I have to tell you that over the course of several years, as I talk to friends and family and neighbors, when I think about members of my own staff who are in incredibly committed monogamous relationships, same-sex relationships, who are raising kids together, when I think about those soldiers or airmen or Marines or sailors who are out there fighting on my behalf and yet feel constrained, even now that Don't Ask, Don't Tell is gone, because they're not able to commit themselves in a marriage. At a certain point, I've just concluded that for me personally, it is important for me to go ahead and affirm that I think same-sex couples should be able to get married. I deeply appreciate the support I've received from so many of you. Michelle appreciates it, and I want you to know that you have our support as well. Michelle appreciates it. Michelle appreciates it. You have my thanks for the work you do every day in pursuit of equality on behalf of the millions of people in this country who work hard and care about their communities and who are gay, lesbian, bisexual, or transgender. This struggle continues today. For even as we face extraordinary challenges as a nation, we cannot and will not put aside issues of basic equality. We seek We seek an America in which no one feels the pain of discrimination based on who you are or who you love. We have made progress, and we will make more. I've signed a memorandum requiring all agencies to extend as many federal benefits as possible to LGBT families as current law allows. I've called on Congress to repeal the so-called Defense of Marriage Act to help end discrimination against same-sex couples in this country. I'm also urging Congress to pass the Domestic Partners Benefits and Obligations Act, which will guarantee the full range of benefits, including health care, to LGBT couples and their children. My administration is also working hard to pass an employee non-discrimination bill and hate crimes bill, and we're making progress on both fronts. Judy and Dennis Shepard, as well as their son Logan, are here today. I met with Judy in the Oval Office in May, and I assured her and I assured all of you that we are going to pass an inclusive hate crimes bill into law, a bill named for their son Matthew.
And take a live look right now at the White House, lit up in rainbow pride colors to show support for today's monumental decision.
You decide, what is this hanging between her legs, jiggling and flopping around? Here it is. Slow down. She's adjusting it. I mean, I've seen men my whole life myself adjust their packages. Sorry we're talking about this, folks, but they're bringing it up. Look at that. She's got, get that gun in line there.
What's your question?
How long have you been with Barack Obama?
We been married? 20-something years. Wait, somebody, you guys know the date. When was it? It's been over a decade. It's been a while. We've been looking at new models of getting farmers markets to, create buses and drive into communities that are underserved. So we have to deal with the question of access. And believe me, as a busy single mother, or I shouldn't say single, as a busy mother, sometimes when you got the husband who's president, it can feel a little single, but he's there. As a busy single mother, or I shouldn't say single, as a busy mother, sometimes when you got the husband who's president, it can feel a little single.
Drag queen demon reads to kids at Michelle Obama Library. There it is right there. So now they have gender neutral birth certificates, and they have the cross-dressing drag queen demon for the drag queen story time. That's what it is. Drag queen story time at Michelle Obama Library. They think I'm people thought I was joking. No, folks, the reason why Michelle Obama's library is hosting LGBTQ events is because she is part of that community. So, I mean, why do you think they do this? You think that Michelle Obama is the first woman president to have a transsexual speak at her library? No, she's the first lady. She's the first transsexual first lady to have a transsexual speak at her library.
I've always thought Michelle Obama looked like something was wrong with her. They talk about how beautiful she is. She looks profanely scary and monstrous to me. And she always wears these weird fluffy things around her waist. And her shoulders are wide enough to put 3 men's heads on. And of course, you know the classic thing of a male. You could have 3 heads on a male's shoulders and only another head on a woman's shoulder, or 1/2 of a head on each side. That's a well-known thing in anatomy. And I saw an online video that I may air today, and we may look into this, talking about Michelle Obama looking like a man, and how they only release photos of her with her hands up, covering her shoulders, or her turned at an angle. And I started looking at it with Joan Rivers saying she's a transvestite. And I'd been hearing this for years, and I thought, come on. I know Obama was raised by a transvestite and the rest of it, and I'm not getting into bashing people. That's not my cup of tea. But I started to really last night look at videos of this and look at photos of her in the official White House photo, and she looks like an NBA center. I mean, she looks more like Shaquille O'Neal than a black woman. And knowing all the weirdness and that we don't even know who Obama really is and his social security numbers don't e-verify. And then his dad, clearly, we saw the documentary, Dreams of My Real Father. And I mean, it's him with the famous pornographer who lived in Hawaii, who his grandfather was best buddies with, and who Obama would stay the summers with. A famous communist pornographer. And you look at the guy, it's Obama's dad. So the whole Kenya thing with her saying, my husband's from Kenya, we visited his place of birth in multiple videos in 2006 and 7. His Harvard review, where he was the head of the Harvard Law Review, and he said, I was born in Kenya in his bio. And in his bio for shopping book deals when he was a senator, state senator, said I was born in Kenya. And we took that bait hook, line, and sinker, folks. That, oh my God, they're covering up the records, oh, he's from Kenya, but his dad looks nothing like him. And then you see Frank Marshall Davis. I mean, it's his daddy. And then his grandfather's best buddies with him in the CIA. And then you go, oh my gosh. And then imagine the joke. See, it's all about a joke on us. That he's got cutout daughters, look nothing like him, and a cutout wife. And I began to look at his daughters last night and look at his wife. She's has that double chromosomal disorder where women are really men, and it's turned out a lot of the Olympic runners and a lot of the top tennis players and things really are not even really females. They're not hermaphrodites. Some of them are hermaphrodites, or both. A lot of them have this double chromosome. Men can have it too. And the Olympics are looking at trying to ban this in men and women, because men are like supermen, they're like cavemen. And then the women are like men when they have this chromosomal disorder. Was the double X, double Y. In fact, print me some literature on that. I'm going from memory. But I've always looked at her jaw, her shoulders, her pelvis, all of it looks male. She has that male Superman physique. And it just clicked. You know what? I bet she is not who she says she is. I mean, my gut just really registered with that. What do you think about that? There is chromosome abnormality. Chromosome anomaly, abnormality, aberration, or mutation is a missing, extra, or irregular portion of chromosomal DNA. It can be from a atypical number of chromosomes or a structural abnormality in one of the chromosomes. Chromosome mutation has formerly used in a strict sense to mean a change in a chromosomal segment involving more than one gene. Yeah, but find the one, guys, that's hyper male or hyper female. It's super male, super female. Because I remember seeing documentaries about it and reading books about it in biology, reading about it, but it's a big issue in the Olympics. They talk about it on ESPN, where they go and they do blood tests on, you know, female runners and folks that don't look like women. And hey, it turns out they don't have a penis, excuse my French, but that's the word, that's the medical word for it. but they do have male genetics. They're men. They're men. And it turned out, remember the Russians couldn't lose in the 60s and 70s and 80s, and the women weightlifting didn't really look like women, and they would test them, and you know, they didn't have steroids in them, but they looked like men. Well, they were men. Well, Joan Rivers talked about it in the last few days, and it's a big international news story. The question is, who is Michelle Obama? Is she really a woman? Is she a man? Now, I'm not drawing any conclusions here, but I know this. It's fair to question anything and everything this administration says, because I can't think of an administration in history that has been caught with such a perfect record of everything they say and do being a lie, being a fraud. You've got all these examples with Obamacare and all the taxes it raises on poor people and the death panels and all the denials about that. And then the architect of Obamacare, Rahm Emanuel's brother, comes on Fox News and says, you know what, the plan is to bankrupt the healthcare system with this and bring in total socialism. So the insurance companies are getting in line. These people are the authors of so much corruption, so much tyranny, that they shouldn't whine and complain when the public doesn't believe anything they're saying, especially when every time I look at Michelle or Michael Obama, the first lady or the first tranny, every time I look at them, something doesn't look right. She doesn't look like any black woman or any woman I've ever known. She's got shoulders that are wider than a man's, which physiologically doesn't happen. Again, you can put 3 heads on a man's shoulders and only 2 heads on a woman's shoulders. That's a known anatomy. And then women generally have wider hips than men do. And you look at her arms and the rest of it, when she's standing straight on, she looks like no woman I have ever seen, except for people who have had different chromosomal disorders who choose to be a woman. And I've got the statistics and the numbers right here in front of me. We're seeing more and more of these chromosomal disorders because of all the toxic waste and GMO that's been introduced. One of them is the Klinefelter syndrome, or the double XY, where you basically are part female, part male, and then generally around puberty or even younger, the person needs to choose who they're going to be. And when you look at other people who have been reported, like Olympic runners and others, to perhaps having this disorder, they look just like Michelle Obama. And we've seen cases before where they then do the test and then don't release them. And the Russians got caught in the Olympics, of course, back in the 70s and 80s, having, quote, women wrestlers and weightlifters that really weren't women. They were really men. It's just they didn't have the genitalia, and some evidence showed they'd had it removed so that the great state could be shown of communism as defeating capitalism. But Joan Rivers, obviously, while officiating at a gay wedding, was basically asked about if America would accept this, and you know, she said, well, we already have a gay president and his transvestite wife. You know, for me, this isn't really a laughing matter, because not just the sexuality, but the very genetics of the human species across the board is being manipulated. We've got some areas of the United States where more than 2/3 of the frogs are being born hermaphrodites or asexual or sterile. We've got all sorts of sexual mutations happening in guinea pigs that are fed GMOs, things I won't get into here on the air. And we are all guinea pigs under this. So getting all the political correctness aside, there has always been people throughout history, males identify as females, females identify as males. There's always been a small portion of that, a small statistic. And I don't judge or attack those people. And I'm not obsessed with it either. I'm sick of the societal obsession with it. It's clearly being pushed, and that's what I'm tired of, is the force feeding of all of this culturally to reduce population and also break up the family. I'm tired of male role models that are traditional and female traditional role models being under attack. And so those that are pushing this politically correct agenda that tell us don't use the word bossy, it attacks women, or your kid can't play with a Nerf gun, or don't call illegal aliens immigrants, and then don't call them immigrants, call them migrants, and then don't call them migrants, call them people that you need to bow down and worship and pay for, or you're a racist, or turn your guns in or you're a racist, or vote for Obamacare, you're racist. The truth is we're dealing with a move towards eugenics and dehumanization, period, that makes Brave New World look like an instruction manual. And after all, Aldous Huxley did say in his nonfiction book, Brave New World Revisited in 1961, that indeed it was an instruction manual, and that his brother headed up the UN plan at UNESCO to actually end the sexes as we know it and create biological androids to serve the state. So we're being conditioned by the television, conditioned by the chemicals, conditioned by the bad food, all of it, to become artificial consciousness, artificial insemination, because we're so incredibly infertile that, we have to have 3 parents now, and the baby has to be designed. And if they build back doors into all the technology and all the smart grids to surveil and control us, everything we talked about now admitted, I'm here to tell you they admit they're planning to build backdoor systems and stack genetic traits they want into all these new designer babies. The globalists are a cult of genetic engineering. So we can make jokes about Michelle Obama obviously having some type of chromosomal mutation or disorder. I mean, undoubtedly something's wrong with her. People can make jokes all day about how she's really a merman from series He-Man Masters of the Universe. But again, bottom line, we can laugh at our own peril, because this is affecting all of us and all of our children. And genetic disorders are off the chart. They're just telling us, this is just because we have bad genes. Well, why wasn't it expressing like this before? It is the environmental things that are being added into the food chain by design that is clearly causing this to happen. And the globalists told us that that's what they were planning to do.